Hello, and what is going on, everybody? It is Master of the TDS, and I am joined by my lovely wife,
WritingRaven.
And we're back for another episode of Psycho-Synopsis.
Indeed.
The segment where we summarize all the Psycho for you. Just a scattering of topics throughout the week, all summarized into one neat little package for you to enjoy and consume at your leisure.
You're welcome.
So we got a couple topics to discuss today, including one that we're going to be addressing certain things point by point because we're tired of hearing the same argument. If you're interested in that, you can check that out. It'll be later on in the video. But for now,
let us bring in our first client, Disney.
It isn't my fault we lost streaming rights in India, Mickey. Please have mercy. Oh, there's no mercy, Bob. I'm not happy, Bob. Not happy. The drop in Disney Plus subscribers was entirely driven by a 3.8 million sequential decline in Disney Plus Hotstar, the version of the service offered in India and parts of Southeast Asia.
So it's not wokeness that got them to lose subscribers.
Now, why do you think we're reporting on this first and kind of talking on this? As my wife said, a lot of people were saying, and myself included, that they were kind of happy that, Disney had lost that amount of, they'd lost a lot of subscriptions, and everybody was like, get woke, go broke, but in reality, it's not, and I have to give a shout out to Comic Book News for this information. But long story short is Disney lost the rights in India to stream certain things, and as a result, basically this has become something where people were kind of misconstruing the information.
Yeah, I mean, it's still fun to think that it's because of wokeness, because they have had so many bad decisions lately, and not to mention the fact that they're about to fire 7,000 people?
Yeah, look, they're not in a good place, obviously, but we have to acknowledge the facts, and the facts do say that it is not because of it being woke. I don't think that them being woke has helped with anything, but in reality, this is not because of them being woke. Now, it's possible that some portion of this was from people unsubscribing, but evidently it wasn't a big enough amount as of yet. So, despite what other people might say otherwise, we do report on the news, and we do report what we find, and it wasn't because of it being woke, it was because of them losing the rights in India, and that's an important distinction to make. Do I think that Disney's doing well? Do I think that they're in a good place? No. Do I think that them losing subscribers was because of wokeness? Yes, but not entirely, as you can see from this information.
Yeah, he is not a happy mouse.
Nope. But again, we'll have to wait and see how this goes. I don't think Bob Iger was the best choice to bring back. Again, people are making him out to like this big savior, and I don't really think that's going to be the case. But we just wanted to clarify this information. I do think Disney is not in a good place, but it's important at least to recognize that it wasn't entirely because of wokeness.
I guess that's fair. Shall we move on? And next up we have Buzz Lightyear!
Buzz Lightyear mission log. I think they're out of ideas.
You would be thinking correctly.
Disney CEO Bob Iger announced the Walt Disney Company would be creating new sequels for Toy Story, Frozen, and Zootopia during the company's Q1 2023 earnings call.
And you can see here Tim Allen saying, "See ya soon, Woody. You are a sad, strange little man and you have my pity. And off we go to number 5, to infinity and beyond." It's so much fun to say that.
Now, a thing to note, I honestly don't think we need another Toy Story.
We really don't.
I don't think we needed Toy Story 4. I think Toy Story 3 was a really good conclusion. And it could have been left that way. Where they're going from this, I don't know. Frozen, Zootopia, I get it. But one thing to be important is they're bringing back Tim Allen. Now, as we know, there was the movie Lightyear,
which no one talks about anymore.
Because it wasn't good. And the marketing around it was all about gay kiss, gay kiss, gay kiss, which again, doesn't actually bring people in.
And not to mention the fact that they sidelined Tim Allen doing the voice of Buzz Lightyear in favor of Chris Evans doing the voice of Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah, so it's nice to actually see that Tim Allen is coming back. I would be worried that they would, try and cast Chris Evans instead, but obviously they have at least understood that people like Tim Allen, people like his work, and they're not going to pretend or try to substitute someone in for him. They're going to just utilize him. And again, they've been utilizing him quite a lot. They've also been utilizing him in I believe, a Santa Claus show.
It's called The Santa Clauses.
It'll be interesting to see. As I said, I don't think we need another Toy Story. I think that we're completely done. I think that we didn't need a 4. I liked the idea when I heard about what they were going to do for 4, and then they ruined it.
Yeah, pretty much.
But maybe they'll put it back on track with this one. I mean, I can't say that the Toy Story movies haven't been entertaining.
Yeah, but what are they going to do with number 5? What more story is there to tell?
I would love if they did a story where they got maybe Andy to come visit or something, and somehow incorporated where at the end Andy gets these toys back and gives them to his kids.
That would be good. That's what should have happened all along, really.
No, I liked 3.
Yeah.
I think 3 was okay.
3 had a good ending, but it would make more sense for Andy to pass on his toys to his own children instead of just giving them to some girl he just met.
I don't know. Regardless, it's... I don't know. And I don't even know if we'll get to see Woody. I mean, they're saying it, but like in the 4th one, Woody is like going away. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. I'm not looking forward to this, but they could surprise us.
Maybe. I would like to be surprised for once, and in a good way.
See? We're not all hateful.
Not at all. But anyway, let's move on. And next up we have Star Wars.
Creatively bankrupt we are.
Yes, we know.
Lucasfilm is releasing a new animated series set during the High Republic era that follows Jedi younglings as they study the ways of the Force, explore the galaxy, help citizens and creatures in need, and learn valuable skills needed to become Jedi.
You lost me at High Republic.
Now, I want to clarify something right away. Obviously, this is not a show for die-hard Star Wars fans. It is obviously, from the animation style and everything, meant to cater towards children.
Definitely.
And I'm sure it will do just that.
Cater to children.
No, I'm sure the children will like it. I'm sure, come on, you're a little kid and you're watching this kind of stuff, you're not that picky.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I used to think Power Rangers had good acting back when I was a child.
It's debatable depending on which Power Rangers you're talking about.
Exactly.
The thing we're going to focus on here is, again, because we're not going to criticize this show that hasn't come out yet. What we are going to criticize is them focusing on the High Republic. Now, as you guys know, the High Republic is their kind of substitution for what supposedly happened at what point in history? Between...
I think that's their version of the Old Republic.
Yeah, it's not good. They had a character that was named Geode, who was a rock, who has no hands, no arms, no legs, no any kind of thing, and no mouth, no eyes, and somehow is flying a ship, or at least a navigator.
Yeah, and mates by smelting.
I don't even want to know. Regardless, they continue to claim that these books are doing well, and I'm sure that people are buying them. I'm not saying people aren't. But, for the most part, these days, you can never know whether a book is actually doing well or not, because they will sometimes buy up a bunch of their books to get it on a New York Times best-selling list in the hopes to remake the money that they're going to have lost.
That's true, and sometimes they'll make up all new lists of whatever to promote a book so that it can be number 1 on said list.
Yeah, top best-selling book that has this character in it at this time period in this time place, and that's, yeah.
Best example, Tom Taylor's Superman.
Yeah, it was the best novel that was released on this day and this time and this exact point. It had 4 reviews.
My comic sales!
Regardless, look, the show I'm sure will be good. I'm sure will be decent for children. I'm hoping they kind of steer away from, romance and stuff like that. That would be really weird.
Especially for children.
These days, we don't know what they're going to kind of push. So, but it could be a decent show. I think that it's not necessary to do this kind of show. I think that focusing on the High Republic going forward is a bad idea for them. But at this point, as we discussed, we are not that into Star Wars anymore. If anything, we chronicle its demise.
Indeed.
Not dunking on this show. I'm sure it will be exactly what it seems, a decent show for children. However, focusing on the High Republic era and pushing that when data has shown that it is not being well received is probably not the best way to go about this, but then again, Disney has shown that they don't really seem to care what the actual fans want, so this doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, me neither. Let's move on. And speaking of TV shows, next up we have Spiderman Noir.
You rang? Prime Video announces the second Marvel project based on the Sony-owned characters, this one centering on the gritty 1930s Spider-Man Noir.
And apparently it's not Peter Parker.
Yeah, that was one thing they announced which I didn't like. Now, I actually am a big fan of Spider-Man Noir. I like his design very much.
Mm-hmm.
His story was decent. It was a different take on things, which actually I felt was pretty good. And he's gotten a lot of notoriety from the Into the Spider-Verse movie.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage did a great job with his voice acting.
Yeah, but a live-action Spider-Man series would be really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they come out of the bat and announce that it is not Peter Parker. There's no reason to not make it like an alternate version of Peter Parker. Unless...
Master has a theory that because he's noir, it's gonna be a black guy under the mask.
Yeah, I have a feeling. Now, again, I have no problem if they're doing that. The problem I have is you don't have to make a big deal about it. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
When you make a big deal about these kind of things, to me, all it says is that you don't actually have an argument for why you're doing it, and you're utilizing it as a marketing point and a marketing point only.
Yeah, what he said.
And that's not what this should be. I like this character's story. I think it would be a great thing to see adapted in live action, especially if they kind of like take somewhat of like a detective style, imagining like him sipping coffee like, it was a dark, stormy night.
Well, that is the style of his universe and character.
Exactly. Imagine a live-action show with that kind of aesthetic.
And wouldn't it be awesome if they incorporated the Into the Spider-Verse movie and have him pondering the Rubik's Cube?
It was a dark and stormy night, and this Rubik's Cube is black and white.
I don't understand it yet, but I will.
Regardless, I'm interested to see where this goes, especially since it's a Sony-owned character. We'll see if they kind of stick more towards things. Again, Sony has had some hit or misses.
That is true.
Morbius being one of their big misses.
Yeah, we still haven't seen it.
I don't think we need to.
No, we don't.
But, I'm interested. You got my attention. Let's see if you can keep it. Unfortunately, it's on Prime, Amazon Prime, and as we know, Amazon Prime has a track record, especially with the Lord of the Rings of Power series, that they don't seem to really care about what the fans want.
No, that and Wheel of Time.
Regardless, I'm interested to see where this goes. I think it would be a cool show if it's done right.
Agreed.
Even if it's not Peter Parker.
Agreed. Moving on. And speaking of live-action adaptations, next up we have The Witcher.
That is my cue to exit. The Witcher creator himself, Andrzej Sapkowski, was, like fans, unimpressed with the Netflix live-action and canon-breaking attempt at adapting his work.
No kidding!
And as you can see, someone actually posted a tweet about it, and his actual words were, "I've seen better and I've seen worse."
Yeah.
Which basically is to say, if anything, he's saying it's middling.
And unimpressive.
Now, I think that we all can agree that Henry Cavill does a great job as Geralt of Rivia.
Oh, yes, he does.
But unfortunately, we all know that he's leaving, and the people in charge did the Witcher Blood Origin thing, which doesn't seem to be doing very well.
Not to mention the fact that it completely destroys the series' bloodline by making her earliest ancestor, a black woman, when there were no such thing in Witcher lore.
Regardless of that, they apparently just didn't do very well. Now, we haven't seen The Witcher Blood Origin, obviously.
For good reason.
But what we've heard about it has not been good from pretty much every single person. We've heard that it's got bad acting, it's got some randomly inserted stuff, and the ways they tried to promote it, with the saying, "Oh, this is the first gay kiss between two men in a show." That's not a marketing point.
Not at all.
Tell me what the story is going to be about.
They didn't.
It's because they don't care. They want to go, look, we have representation, come watch. And then the super tiny percentage of the world that actually cares about that representation, and the even smaller amount of people in that represented group that actually watch this stuff, go watch it. It's not enough to keep it afloat.
Yeah, not at all.
Especially when you don't do it justice regardless.
Yeah, I don't blame Henry for leaving. You had such a good opportunity with him. If you had just stuck with the books, he would have stayed.
But regardless, I haven't seen The Witcher. I've read the books, but I haven't seen the show. I have no interest in seeing the show. But I will, talk about it. And I think that it's funny that Andrzej Sapkowski said basically like he doesn't really care, he doesn't think it's great, because it just goes to show you that even he, the person who wrote the books, doesn't think that they did as good of a job. So it kind of even justifies Henry even more, if anything.
Absolutely, especially when you consider the games being more accurate to the books than the TV show.
It's really sad that we could have had a really good show here, and that these people need to change everything. Leave it alone. Not every story needs to have representation from every single group of individuals. Sometimes it can just be a story told the way that it was supposed to.
You should have let Henry be the writer.
Well, we'll have to see what happens with Henry in regards to the Warhammer series, but in regards to The Witcher, I think it's only going downhill from here.
Yeah, pretty much. And so we move on to the main topic of today, the goblins in Harry Potter.
So, let's address this right off the bat. There has been a thing going around about Hogwarts Legacy and J.K. Rowling being transphobic or whatever. But now, because people don't seem to be listening to that, what they're now doing is going back on this old thing where goblins in Harry Potter are obviously Jewish people, because they look like a stereotypical Jewish person.
Yeah, no.
Now, my wife and I are modern Orthodox Jewish. So the reason we're talking about this is because we are sick and tired of seeing this narrative around, and so it was my decision to make this image, which debunks every single one of their claims, and we are going to go through it piece by piece and explain exactly why all of their arguments that say that, oh, it's obviously Jewish people, are false or incorrect.
Given to you by actual Jews.
Thank you. So, honey, what is the first thing they like to say?
The star.
So as you can see, there is a star on the floor of the Gringotts Bank in Harry Potter where the goblins are. And people have said, well, look, it's a Magen David star, and that means the Star of David, so that means Jewish people. Now, honey, do you want to explain why that is not the case?
Certainly. One, it is actually part of the Australian flag where that scene was filmed, in the building where that scene was filmed. That was already in the architecture.
Exactly. It is actually the Commonwealth Star. Now, this was changed later on, but when the floor was made in 1908, it was not changed. Therefore, the floor had the Commonwealth Star and was not a Star of David.
And if I may add, the hexagram is not unique to Judaism. It can be found in occult, in Wicca, in Hinduism, as above, so below, alchemy. Just because it's more prominent in Jewish culture doesn't mean it does not mean that it is exclusive to Jewish culture.
I think we've now thoroughly debunked this whole, well, the star's obviously Jewish. It's not. We've proven it multiple different ways. So if you use that argument, expect to just get laughed at.
Indeed.
Let's move on to the next one.
The next one is the horn.
So as you can see on the right, there is an image of a horn. It's a goblin artifact,
Which is in the game.
Hogwarts Legacy. They're saying that this is what is called a shofar in Jewish culture, which is a horn that is blown at certain times of the year to ask for repentance from God for our sins.
And in the days of kings, they were sounded in battle.
Yes. Now, this is a goblin horn, and they're saying, oh, it says 1612, which is a year of a goblin rebellion, which is supposedly a year of something bad that happened in Judaism. No. And that it's stuffed with gorgonzola cheese and behind the hog's head, which the hog's head is obviously referring to pigs, which means pigs are not kosher, and the gorgonzola cheese is not kosher, therefore it's obviously a reference to Jewish people.
That's quite the leap.
Yes. So, I want to read, from what I found, one of the earliest recorded stories that bring up goblins as these mythical creatures. The Benevolent Goblin is a folk story written by an unknown author that was compiled in British Gestia Romanorum between the 13th and 14th centuries. The plot was as follows. In a wooded hill in England, there once had lived an unusually friendly, helpful goblin. This goblin wore a red robe, and he would help the local knights by offering a mysterious drinking horn that was encrusted with gold and jewels. When the knights drank the unknown liquid from the mysterious horn, they would become miraculously cooled and refreshed.
And so they're claiming that this horn represents a shofar, which a shofar is a trumpet horn, not a drinking horn. They are two very different things.
This just thoroughly debunked what you just claimed. Not only is it probably not a shofar, it might have been like a war horn, but it's actually probably referencing this, which is where the idea of goblins and horns came from. Surprise! It wasn't Jewish people. It's not a shofar. Go cry yourself to sleep over it.
Not to mention, this whole game takes place in the United Kingdom.
Another one of their arguments thoroughly debunked. And now for the last one.
That goblins look like stereotypical Jews.
As you can see, I have found the earliest image, and it's from
1233 AD.
Yes. And as you can see, if you look on the left, there is these three men. They are Jewish people. And as you can see, they have the long nose trope. But otherwise, what do you notice, honey? Do they look like goblins?
No.
And what I looked for was to try and find the earliest available image of goblins that were mentioned. And I found a goblin drawing by Olive Crockrell from The Queen of Goblins by A. Pickering from 1892.
Way after 1233.
But look at it. Even then, honey, do you see a Jewish person?
No, I see a goblin.
So, in other words, the most earliest depiction of stereotypical Jews was not goblin-esque, and therefore, if anything, you want to make the argument that it is a stereotype of Jewish people, it meant that people much later on took and made a caricature based off of goblins, which there's very little, if any, proof for. Again, another one thoroughly debunked, and you could say, again, maybe there's some sort of threads of evidence that maybe, but I think we've thoroughly debunked all these claims, and I think that if you're not a Jewish person, you shouldn't speak for all Jewish people, and if you are a Jewish person and you're finding reasons to be offended, hopefully this video puts those to rest. If it doesn't, I would seriously question why you're looking to be offended so badly.
Seriously. Brought to you by two real Jews.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye. Moving on. And lastly, we have Eliza Blue. Again.
Should I admit fault for my behavior? No, I'll claim it's image-based sexual abuse.
No such thing!
Eliza Blue has once again decided to double down on her lies and is now claiming she is a victim of image-based sexual abuse and claiming anyone who shared images of her without consent is her abuser. As you can see, she says, "Today I have decided to change my story as a survivor. I have been abused a third time on a massive digital scale. It's called image-based sexual abuse, IBSA. Every individual who knowingly profited off this content without my consent has become my abuser in my story." But as you can see, Twitter Notes had a little bit of context they wanted to add. Would you read it, honey?
Sure. Readers added context they thought people might want to know. The recent events surrounding Eliza Blue do not meet the definition of image-based sexual abuse. All of the content was consensually recorded, publicly produced, and initially consensually distributed. Consent cannot be withdrawn from this type of media after the fact. Boom!
So, yeah, she got fact-checked again, and she's crying and basically at one point even said, "I need strong men or to help me." She's lost it.
Yeah.
And as you can see on the right, those are the numbers of followers she's losing.
Oh, I love karma.
So, again, for those of you who do not know the full story of Eliza Blue, you should check back on our last two videos towards we've covered this. This is like an ongoing saga. She's now striking YouTube videos, she's taking people's accounts down, she's doing all this kind of stuff, and yet claiming to be a martyr or whatever. She's not. You are not a human trafficking survivor. You have made it very clear. If you think someone distributing your image without your consent is making you a victim, you're not.
Maybe you should have considered that in the past when you decided to create said image.
Eliza, all you had to do was say, "Oh yeah, that was my past. I did some things I regret. I don't like to talk about it. Can we move on from it? And guess what? People would have memed you, people would have laughed, and it would have been over in a week.
Yeah, and it's been, 3 weeks now? Maybe more?
Yeah. You're not going to get away with this anymore. Bigger people are taking notice of it, like Candace Owens and Tim Pool, and it's only a matter of time. The gig is up.
Yeah. But the fact that she's just made us laugh so hard on Friday.
Yeah. So, good luck with what you're trying to do here. You're being fact-checked on Twitter. No one believes you, except for, simps. And at this point, honestly, you only have yourself to blame for where you're at. I would suggest that you take a long look at yourself and actually come clean, but you're not going to. But I'll tell you this. Your time in the spotlight, for the reasons you wanted to be in the spotlight, are over.
Indeed.
Unless you come forward and say something, which even at that point the damage has been done, you had your time, you ruined it, now you have the results of what happened here. This is all the fruits of your own labor and the results of your own words.
What he said.
Get over yourself, come clean, or stop talking, because from now on, everybody is going to continue to look at you this way, and I would not be surprised if you lose a lot more followers, because you've already lost a lot of your credibility, if you really had any to begin with.
Indeed. Moving on, and with that being our last client of the day, it is time for us to reveal the diagnosis of the week.
So I have an interesting diagnosis for you guys this week.
Do tell.
So the diagnosis for this week is factitious disorder.
Please explain.
So, it's factitious disorder, which is also called Munchausen syndrome by proxy. It's when someone falsely claims that another person had physical or psychological signs or symptoms of illness or disease and other things like that. Now, you may have seen this prominently in certain movies, such as The Sixth Sense and other things like that. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, because it is not exactly what's going on here, but these people these days are doing very similar to this, because they are now falsely claiming that, goblins are Jewish people, or this is transphobic, or this is whatever. And they're finding reasons that other people who they're speaking for should be offended because they said so. And that is exactly what's happening here. Munchausen by proxy is someone making someone seem sick. This is someone making someone seem offended. That's exactly what's happening here. So I felt there was a very good analogy to be drawn here. Again, this particular definition is not entirely perfect for this scenario, but I do think that what's happening is very, very much an offshoot of this. And this is the closest thing we could get to it. And that's why I feel this is a great diagnosis for this week.
I agree.
And now we move on to the remedy of the week.
And this week we are going to be sending you to our friend, the Shagsworth, who we actually got to meet in Orlando. He's a political, social gamer channel, is a very good guy all around, very funny, has some great taste in music, go Hai Lung.
And he also is one of the hosts of the Midweek Hump, which you may have heard of, along with Horror Murata, Sheep Sidian, No Green Rocks, and Mr. Grant Gregory. He's getting closer to 2,000 subscribers, so we're hoping to kind of send some people over there. Again, he's a really good guy. You won't be disappointed.
Indeed. So grab your controllers, head on over there, and let him know that Gothic Therapy referred you.
Indeed. But that is all we have for this week. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and also make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe with notifications on, so you do not miss your weekly therapy session.
Or you will be charged. But remember, when you do subscribe, your first session is free, so smash those buttons like they're bad kitties. And do consider joining us at the dusk, midnight, or dawn level. We would appreciate it quite a lot. You can also find links to all of our socials in the description below, as well as links to our merch store and our Discord server known as The Clinic. Be sure to check them out.
We are also on Odyssey and Rumble. If you guys are more interested in those alternatives, I've been trying to plug those if we get a chance. There are links in the description.
Indeed.
But that's all we have for this week, and we will see you guys in the next one.
Gothic Therapy out.